Hi. So, as you can probably tell, I like to get certain members. Family members, of course, and yes, I do see your hand. However, I do have to film this video. I can talk to you afterward. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you for understanding. So, in this movie that I'm going to talk about, they receive an instant child in a can. And I'm going to move forward so that I can have the mic closer. They receive an instant child in a can, and the person, Alberta Bartolotti, is okay with that. She is delighted by the fact that she receives an instant child. I would be very scared and not at all okay with that, because I don't want an instant child. I like the child making process. But that's for a different video. But to set it up a little, this movie is called Konrad. It was released in 1985, and I have a script, so I'm just going to read off of that. Starring Max Wright.
Prepaid.
Polly Holiday. And Ned Beatty.
Don't get carried away.
So, Max Wright is the scientist. He is also the dad in Alpha, and that's probably his most famous role. All of the lines that in this movie are so robotic, and the one that I quote the most with him, with my friends that have seen the movie, which I'll talk about in a second, is
Pour the nutrient solution over the contents of this container immediately.
Nutrient solution.
Pour the nutrient solution over the contents of this container immediately.
Okay.
Nutrient solution over the contents of this container immediately.
I am.
Pour the nutrient solution over the contents of this container immediately.
I did it. What more do you want from me?
I just found it so funny while watching it that he recorded it. It was a pre-recorded message on cassette, and he pre-recorded himself getting madder and madder and louder, telling them to. So I quote that quite a bit with my friend, because one day we didn't know what to do and I wanted to watch a movie. However, I didn't want to show him anything that I already knew. So, however, I wanted to find a movie that he might like, that I have never seen before and that he has never seen before. So we went on to the place where all good movies die, Vudu. We went onto the free section of Vudu, into the PG section or something, and we searched through all of them. 2,200 something, I'm pretty sure at the time. And this was like 2-3 years ago at this point. Stumbled across this movie, Konrad. It's in the K section because it was alphabetically. And it sounded the most strange, so we went back to it when we got to the end of the list, and we watched it. And boy, oh boy, were we surprised that it was way more than we anticipated. The next person that I mentioned was Polly Holiday. Is that her name? Yeah, Polly Holiday. I think she's most famous for Gremlins. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what I know her from, so that's probably what she's most famous for. I do have an aunt that sounds exactly like her, and her name is Aunt Karen. And Karen, if you're watching this, you sound like Polly Holiday. So that's that. Ned Beatty. He is the main villain of the movie. Not really. It's supposed to be Max Wright. However, I picture him as the main villain. And I don't know why. It might be his line delivery, or it might be the way that he just starts being the father figure. Something about him I do not like. It makes me offset, and I don't want Konrad around him. However, he becomes Konrad's instant father in this scene where they start doing instant child support unofficially to Alberta Bartolotti as a type of payment for being around Konrad.
I would give anything to be his father.
How much anything?
Whatever it might take.
Well, maybe we could work something out.
Like what?
Like pretending we were married, but separated. I would live where I live and you would live where you live.
Where does Konrad live?
He would live with me.
But I could contribute instant child support, just enough for him, on a weekly or a monthly basis.
For how long?
Till he's 35. I don't know.
Then you would have the visitation rights of a separated parent, and you could visit him every other Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Agreed.
And Saturdays.
Every other.
Every.
Agreed.
And some evenings during the week, just for educational purposes.
But not to exceed 3 evenings a week, except by mutual consent.
Agreed.
Although there is kind of strange that they become instant parents, they both do love Konrad. They care for him. There's nothing abusive or wrong with there's a lot of things wrong with the relationship, but there's nothing necessarily bad about the relationships. I'm just sort of off-put by it. Mr. Thomas is off-put by the idea of having Konrad around at first.
Bertie, send him back.
Remember when I said that Mr. Thomas makes me uncomfortable? This scene also does, where Mr. Thomas is trying to talk to Konrad about his past, and Konrad continually states that he cannot talk about his past unless it is a severe emergency, and does not want to do it, and Mr. Thomas keeps pushing, and Konrad states that he is feeling guilty, even talking about knowing about the factory where he came from. Again, just another thing that makes me kind of about it. So let's talk about Konrad a little bit. The actual boy. The main antagonist, or the main person of the movie. The person of interest who the movie is named after. So the first scene that we actually technically see him is this one when he's getting tossed around in a blue can, flipped upside down, back and to and fro. Now, I want you to remember that, because that makes it so much worse when you find out that there is a boy in that scene, a living boy. I'm not going to say breathing, because I'm not sure if he's breathing or not. He might not be. It's so creepy and disgusting that they chose to do this. They could have just had it been, hey, there's no crate involved. There could have been no crate involved. It could have just been, Konrad gets delivered to your front door and shakes your hand and walks in and says, "You're my mom now." Why did they have to put him in the can? Why did they use the special effects? Why did it look so bad? And why am I talking about it as if it's actually that life-changing? It just was uncomfortable. So I'm not going to really say much about Konrad's acting. I don't think it's very nice to comment on child actors, especially in these B movies. However, I will comment on Max Wright, Polly Holiday, and Ned Beatty. He forgets his line, as I have previously mentioned, and I've already showed you. Oh wait, maybe I didn't. Alberta Bartolotti showing this person rugs. That acting, I don't know, could have been better. Maybe it's the writer's choice. I don't know.
Woman and dog now entering residence.
I've never been in a rug factory before.
Oh, it's a regular rugorama. How does this strike you?
It's too purple. I want something unique, something you wouldn't see everywhere.
This rug has neutral colors. It will work in any room. You can put it anywhere. I think that's a safe bet.
I think Alfred will blend in quite nicely.
But by far, the most funny bad acting is the way that Max Wright says prepay. He says it when Alberta Bartoli first opens the door and says, "Oh, is this package for me? How much does it cost?" And he says, "Oh, it's prepaid," or it says it in his own way. And when he's trying to get the child. So up until this point, I've been pretty harsh about the movie and only saying really its negatives. However, that was intentional, because the second half of this movie is where most of the intentional humor lies. The second half of this movie is where you find out that Konrad should have never been sent to Alberta Bartolotti. He was supposed to go to a different family, and the reason that he was sent to Alberta Bartolotti is because a few years prior, she had purchased some shampoo from their company and wanted a refund for it. And because they never sent that refund, for some reason her name was pushed to the top of the computer system. I don't know, it was 85, but it was, so then she got a child instead of a refund for shampoo. which is just crazy. I'm looking at my script, it's down here. There's some scenes at the school, but all you really need to know is that Kitty is nice to him and his friend Frank is ill-minded and is basically just told what to do by the other bully. And I don't even think he gets a name. But some of those scenes are kind of funny and cute or whatever. But all you really need to know is those two characters from school. Don't forget them. So now I have set up all the characters. And now for the kicker, the twist, which I've already said is that the factory wants Konrad back. She doesn't send him back, obviously. She's grown to love him and doesn't send him back and shreds, or not shreds, but tries to hide the papers. Konrad eventually, of course, finds out that the factory wants him back, and he's like, wait a minute, I love it here. However, I do have to follow the factory's orders. And then is eventually coerced out of it by Alberta and Kitty. When the factory realizes that Alberta is not going to be sending Konrad back, they try to hide him at Mr. Thomas's because they don't know that they've been followed this whole time and that they've been tracking, and the factory was just making sure that Konrad is a good fit, and now they just have the information to stalk them and get back Konrad, their product, and they legally can take him back at any point because technically he's a product in this movie. I do not feel okay with that. I'm just saying what the movie is about, okay? So Kitty and Alberta wrap up Konrad in a rug because Alberta is a rug maker and take him to Mr. Thomas's house. Mr. Thomas then accepts to hide Konrad, and then we get this funny scene of them taking this rug there and how they get there. Alberta goes back to her house and sees that the factory has sent 3 people to come get her. These 3 people are the funniest people ever. They are not the 3 Stooges. However, they could have been because they are so hilarious. Actually, they would have been better because they would have made jokes with mouth and verbal instead of with hand and not verbal and verbal. I just want to show you like every scene at the factory, but I'm not. However, I am going to show you this one of 3 guards telling Max Wright that they can get the child.
Attention!
Good afternoon, Dr. Montford.
Doctor's been outraged.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes?
Oh, gosh. Sit down.
Sit here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Men, the Bartolotti situation has reached the crisis stage.
So did you bring Konrad back?
Do you see Konrad around anywhere? Do you see him hopscotching around anywhere?
He's nowhere in sight, Dr. Montford.
Very observant. Give this man a promotion.
What happened, Dr. Montford?
Mrs. Bartolotti dumped a can on my head.
She canned him.
Don't say it like that.
She insulted the doctor.
Why, she insulted the entire Instant Child program. I take it personally.
I told you to let these bozos pick him up.
I was trying to be nice, but this is the time for not nice. This is a mission for the not nice team.
Just leave it to us, sir. Need I say more?
Yes. How do you plan to reacquire Konrad?
Plan A is your basic frontal assault.
So they do, of course, figure out that Konrad is not at that house, and they go to Mr. Thomas's because they can realize, hey, Konrad knows Mr. Thomas. Of course he's going to go there. Max Wright, his emotions can just change on a whim. I don't know if he's supposed to be a robot, but there's 2 scenes now, maybe not up until this point, maybe one of them is in the future. I'm just going to show them back to back to you so you can see how quickly his emotions can change. One of them, he is very upset with Konrad and very mad, and the second he gets any sort of praise or attention, he's just, oh, really? Yeah, I built this company from the ground up.
Konrad, wonderful to see you again. No, sit over there.
He can sit where he wants to sit, and this is where he wants to sit. But I've seen you before.
I'm Al Monfort. Could I sit in my chair? People don't get stuck with instant children. Perhaps we could recycle him. Perhaps in the proper environment, he could rise above this mediocrity. I'll tell you what. Tear up the check, call the parents, tell them to come and pick up their child. Don't tell them he's been recycled. Then get me Konrad's investigation reports and send him in to see me.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you like my hair?
I liked it blonde.
And it's so funny, but his emotions just change so incredibly fast. It's insane. So they do eventually get Konrad into the blue container and send him to the factory to be repurposed and then given to the correct parents. However, the correct parents show up at the factory at the same time that Kitty and Frank, the friends from school, did you forget them? Did you? Huh? I know you forgot them. How dare you forget them? But they show up and they infiltrate and start acting like the perfect children or the instant children and infiltrate that way, while Alberta and Mr. Thomas wander aimlessly through the hallways, finding nothing and doing nothing productive at all. However, Konrad is made to give a speech in front of all of the other instant children, and he goes up there and starts talking while his parents that originally purchased him and paid for his growth and his teaching stand by the door and watch and say, "That's our son, that's our boy." Now, there is a very odd scene where the parents meet, or the supposed to be parents meet Alberta and Thomas, with Max Wright standing there, and he is just super mad and confused and upset, and I will give him credit. And his emotion in this scene is pretty well done. But I assume you know how the movie ends. Eventually, the parents, supposed to be parents, are okay with not getting Konrad, however, getting a different instant child. And then they click a button and the whole thing blows up, but there's no explosion. It's supposed to. I'm not exactly sure what they clicked, and everyone freaked out for 2 seconds. Konrad said, "It's okay." And then it was okay. That's kind of odd. But the parents are okay with not getting the child that they want. Mr. Thomas proposes to Konrad to be his dad. And I should not have said it like that, but I did. I'm going to keep it in the video. I'm kind of like that sometimes. And they almost leave, and it's going to be the end of the movie. You think, yeah, they're going to walk out the door. However, they adopt all of the children. There are about 20 children, and it is insane that they think, yeah, we can take care of you guys. We hardly fed Konrad, but yeah, we definitely got this. Yeah, let's go. That's the end of the movie. However, they do almost set it up for a sequel, which I think would have been insane to do with this movie, and insane to do with any movie, where the premise of it is an instant child. The scene that I'm talking about that they set it up for a second is when Alberta Bartolotti is talking to Max Wright, the scientist, saying, "Don't program children. If you wanted something to obey you and do every order, you should have made a robot, not a child." And that, my friends, is what brings us to today's video. Not really, I don't have that type of money to make a video about a robot that was made by Max Wright, because Max Wright died and probably wouldn't be okay with being one of my videos. That would be cool though. Yeah, well, anyway, ooh, I should do that. What? Instant child. An instant child. I think I have an idea. I'm going to put it in my phone so I don't forget it. 28 minutes. Woo-wee, mom. Okay, so now I can address what you wanted to say. What was it again? Oh, it's down here? Oh, you wanted to let them know that they should subscribe. Bye. Finally, this video can be over.